Thanks for joining the Joss and Crowd podcast, where we talk about photography, business, life, and a little bit more. Hello, today we're here with Autumn, and I'm excited to have her on our show today. She's going to talk about giving back in your business, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of other topics. So thank you so much for being here, Autumn, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Gosh, that's a question that everybody asks, like, oh, tell me about yourself. And you never really know where to start, or I don't really like talking about myself per se, but I will try. I will be 47 next month. I have a daughter who's almost 22. She has flown the nest, so we are empty nesters. We have Harley, who is over there in the corner asleep right now. She is my 3-year-old pit mix. We absolutely love being outdoors, camping, fishing. We have a boat that we enjoy. Last month, we took a trip down to South Carolina with our motorcycle. And if you have never been on the Blue Ridge Parkway, you have to go. It is a must see, and it's just beautiful and gorgeous, and we just love being out. Other than that, I mean, that's just me.
Were you there for Bike Week? Wasn't it Bike Week going on, or?
It was kind of towards the tail end of it, because down in the area it was at the tail of the dragon. And so we didn't ride that, but it was kind of at the tail of that, the end of that bike event. So,
and like Hurricane Ian had just come through too. So,
well, that was, my parents actually lived down in Naples. So my parents, my in-laws, my husband's parents. So
yeah, the last recording was somebody that is in Fort Myers. So he does inspirational, like he does Inspire 365. And so he was like, now I was like, do you want to reschedule because of the hurricane? He's like, no, now is the time we need the inspiration. So
oh yeah,
it's definitely impacted a lot of people. So what is your business and how did it get started?
so it's kind of a long story, but I own Hat Creek Designs. The name Hat Creek comes from the 1989 made-for-TV miniseries Lonesome Dove.
Yeah.
That was one of my mom's favorite movies, so to speak, and it was actually one of the last that we watched together before her passing. And in the movie, the two main characters own what is called Hat Creek Cattle Company. And on a wooden sign, there is a Latin phrase, which I cannot pronounce, but it loosely translates to, our lives are changed by the lives of those around us. And I truly, wholeheartedly believe our life is like a ripple effect. It's like throwing that pebble out into the water and you just get these ripples. And one thing that you do totally affects the life of somebody else. And when you do that in a positive way, it changes your life and it kind of redirects where you're going. So just that Latin phrase has always kind of stuck with me. So when I started Hat Creek, technically it's only been, next month will be 2 years, but I started it in May of 2020, which, as you know, was the height of the pandemic. Everything was shut down. We actually had just bought our house in Pataskla. I didn't know anybody here. And I kept seeing like these wine fairy groups. Do you remember the wine fairy groups on Facebook? So I actually started one here. And it was a way for me to meet new people and kind of learn about this area. Well, what we were finding was, there were so many people who were laid off or out of work or just shut in because of the pandemic. We wanted to wine, so to speak, as many people as we possibly could. So I started making things to sell to raise money to put together these wine fairy bags.
Oh, nice.
So we can just give them out to whoever. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then in August, well, in July of 2020, um, my daughter graduated from Delaware and she was an athlete. And the main fundraising efforts was through the Boosters Bingo. Well, of course, because of the pandemic, that had shut down. And so I reached out to my daughter's old cheer coach and I said, hey, I said, I have this really cool item. What do you think about trying to sell this item as a fundraiser? And that item was my hand cut wooden charcuterie boards that could be personalized. And that was my big first fundraiser. And I raised $660 for that program.
That's awesome.
And it was because of that I thought, everybody does the same fundraisers. Everybody's selling candy bars and everybody does car washes and everybody does pizza rolls and,
Mulch and
things like
mums
that.
too. Yeah.
Right. And it's like your child or student is selling this one item, but you know what? Susie down the street, her club is selling that same item. You can't compete. And you're always, you always have your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles who always purchase because they want to support, their family member. But why not sell an item that people actually want, who are actually going to use, or that makes a really great gift?
Makes sense.
Those pizza rolls and those candy bars are only going to last 15 minutes after you eat them, and then it's gone. So I came up with these items that will last for years, and they do make really great gifts.
That's awesome. What a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I enjoy it, and it really does keep me busy. But again, I mean, I'm giving something that it's like any special or personalized gifts mean way more than just something off the shelf. So I have sold these for closing gifts for real estate agents, for bridal showers, wedding gifts. And when you get that gift that is personalized, to me, it just feels like it just means so much more than just, getting something off your registry or something.
Especially when it's customized. I know that with my name being Jocelyn, I don't have anything with my
No,
name
you
on it
can never
really.
find your name on the keychain rack.
Yes, I never could. And I still look. I have always looked. I will always look. But my mom ended up getting me, I think it was the Delaware County Fair when I was in middle school. There was like a woodworker that was there that could carve names and stuff. And she ended up having them carve my name. And I still have it and I love it. And like the N of like the last N on my name broke off and I was like in a pile on the floor because I'm like, something with my
Oh,
name on it is ruined, but we were able to fix it with wood glue. But you're right, something that's more personal, people appreciate it more. They want it. They feel like you took the time to do something for them so that it is special to them, especially for wedding gifts. I'm like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, as much as I love community partners, you see your pizza places or even your bigger names as Chipotle and things like that doing those, eat for the team nights. I do love the fact that they do give back to local organizations. However, because they have such high overheads, they can't afford to give back very much.
yeah,
So when you think about it, when you dine to donate at, let's just say Chipotle, they're only giving back 10%. Well, if you and your partner go have a meal, let's just say you're spending $40 on that meal. They're only donating $4 back. And then you have your meal and then that's over.
yeah,
Each one of my items, like all of my apparel items, I pay out $5 for each one of those. And then all of my wood items, I pay out $10 for each. And that's not per order. That's like each item. So let's say you place an order for 4 serving trays. I'm going to donate $40, not just 10 for your one order, but 40 because it's $10 each item. I feel like with these items, because you can personalize them and they're handcrafted, it's something that's going to last. It also pays out pretty big.
So how do you end up picking the charities or organizations or fundraisers that you donate to? Does that, if I purchase something from you, do I get to decide, or how does that work?
So at first, after I did the initial fundraiser for Delaware Cheer, I then like put a post in Facebook and some of the local mom groups like, hey, who are some of your favorite charities? Because after that first fundraiser, I did like the month of September, every item that I sold in the month, I would donate to one particular organization. Well, then I was finding, after putting that question out there, like, who are some of your favorite organizations? I was getting Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, an organization called MASH out of Delaware that provides resources and has a food pantry for Delaware County veterans. I did a fundraiser for them. Um, just all of these other organizations that you don't hear a whole lot about. I mean, everybody knows about your school sports and clubs, but then there are all these other ones that they need funds to be able to continue what they do. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. And now I'm getting to the point where people are kind of coming to me, asking me to do a fundraiser for them and for their group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you have to register as a business or a nonprofit, or is there like a legal work that you had to do for that? Or is it just a separate entity of donation?
It's just a donation. Yeah. I mean, I have my vendor's license. I am registered business in the state of Ohio, and it's just a donation. So I don't have to do anything separate from that. Depending on the organization, if they are a 501(c) organization, I can sell my items tax exempt because of that organization. All of your schools or municipalities are always tax exempt, but if they are not a nonprofit organization, then I can, or I do charge that sales tax, but then again, I got to pay the state sales tax quarterly. So,
Right.
yeah.
So do you ever do like vendor events where you raise money for charities that way, or?
I do actually. I've done quite a few. My biggest one that I've done is for Coco, who is Delaware County's first responder therapy dog. She is actually 100% donation based funded. So I have done events in Delaware specifically where most recently in August, we did a huge raffle basket. I had local businesses donate items, and then we raffled off, sold raffle tickets, and all that money went back into Coco. I've done a fall festival where I've donated to organizations. So it kind of depends on the time of year and what that organization is, but I do. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you think that that is what was led to you to do your business, was to give back, or was this just a random thing that fell in your lap? Like, I mean, it's such a cool process. Do you feel like you found your purpose with this?
I think I did. And it's funny that you say that. The other day, my girlfriend was over here and we were working in the shop, and we were listening to another podcast, and they were saying, you have to find your purpose and you have to believe that you have a purpose. And I really said out loud, when is that going to happen? Like, when am I going to find that? Where's my aha moment? And she looked at me and she's like, do I need to smack you? She says, what are you doing right now? And I said, well, I'm working on, this. And she goes, and what is that for? And I'm like, it's for this Boy Scout troop. And she goes, that's your purpose. And it really got me thinking, because 90% of the time I know exactly where my donation funds are going to, but there are times where I don't, like it's going into a general fund. So for example, over the summer, I did a fundraiser for Hillier Bradley football, specifically because they had two students who could not afford the pay to play fee. My money went towards helping those two families pay that pay to play fee so those two boys could play football. And then I've had others where my donations went to help feed a family, or this organization helped a family after a house fire. So most of the time I know exactly where my money goes to. Sometimes I don't, but it really makes me feel good that, right now there are two Hilliard Bradley players playing football because of what I did, what I helped with. And
That's
that to me is
the
just,
bigger
yeah, that's
picture.
my purpose, is to find, how do I want to put this? I don't want to say those in need. But yes, who can really, really, truly benefit. What is their cause? And that cause kind of has to align in with what I believe in as well. And I want to be able to give them the funds to, provide equipment or provide meals or provide healthcare or whatever their need is. I want to be able to help do that. But it was so funny. She just looked at me and she goes, "This is your purpose." And
Well,
we don't see that about ourselves a lot.
and I was just going to touch on that. You said you're waiting for an aha moment. And I remember back in 2015 when I went full time with my business, I was listening to so many different motivational speakers, and Oprah kept coming back up. I am huge into listening to Tony Robbins, but Oprah had been like intertwined into a lot of his videos, which I wasn't even sure why, and they're not anymore. But she said like something about my aha moment, and I was like, what's an aha? Like I didn't know what it was. And like here I'm doing photography, and I had photographed tons of people through the years, and I wanted my own studio. I wanted to write a book, and I accomplished both of those things. And there's just certain different things that have happened. And I look back and I'm like, I never had an aha moment myself, but I still got to points where there was accomplishments and purpose. Like I definitely know that I photographed people before their family members had passed away, and like people that they knew they were losing their babies. So I did maternity photos. There's just different points when I know that photography is my purpose. I know my book was a purpose, but we don't have that like feeling where it's, oh, that's what it was. And I think that
Yeah.
that's where people feel like they don't realize that they have found their purpose because they're standing in the middle of it waiting for some lightning bolt to tell them and slap them across the face and say, this is your purpose.
That's the exact moment that I had literally 3 days ago.
That's
She looked
awesome.
at me and she's like, "I'm going to smack you. What are you doing right this second?" And it takes you back. You're like, you just kind of look around and you're like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's your lightning bolt."
I mean, I did it with my podcast. I had it on my to-do list to start a podcast for a while. And I was like, you need to finish writing your book, get it published because you don't need to add more things to your plate. And then I got it published and I was like, oh, I'll do this then. And then I had COVID in January, and like I didn't really have any symptoms, but I ended up getting long COVID. So I had brain fog and vertigo. And so the last thing I want to do was on a computer. So just kept putting it off. And then finally one day I was listening to this guy, I was talking about podcasts, and I was learning everything that I could. And I was like, you don't have excuse anymore. And then when I started doing it, I was like, yeah, this is your purpose. This is your calling. And I think people joke with me now. Like there was people in my studio this morning, and she made a joke about how, well, Jocelyn does it all. Like she's over there just doing it all. But I feel like that's my purpose. And I tried to explain it to somebody one time because I think that they were discouraged, and it was unsettling to me. They're like, you just do all these things and you do it so well and you're so amazing, and I just don't know how to do all of that. And I said, you have children. You have 3 children under the age of 7. Like you're a mother, you have a husband, you have kids in sports. Like you're doing all of these things that are busy, and I don't have those things. Like I lost my ability to have kids. I don't have a husband. I have an apartment. I rather have my studio space. So like I have different things in my life that have allowed me to open up to give more time to these different things where kids are at sports or dinner or like just normal things. I'm recording a podcast. Like,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
just different times. So I hate when people feel discouraged about it. My race is just a little bit shorter because I don't have all these other things that are taking up my time. It doesn't mean that somebody with all of those things can't do them. It just might take them a little bit longer. But when I started recording my podcast, I knew I was like, I know there's a bigger purpose, and I can't wait till when I hit my 100th episode, or like eventually I would like to have them every day. I got to get better at time management for that. But I think with this, we're reaching so many more people, and somebody listening today that, sells t-shirts or even photography or any type of business that they can do and give back. It's a great idea. I used to do once a month, would give away a session to somebody that needed photography services for whatever reason it was. And I got away with it when I had my studio just because the overhead is really high. And then COVID hit, and it's just been a little bit more challenging for me. But I have Etsy store where it's all beach related items, and I donate back to the beach where I collect all the items that, like, the
Oh, that's
inspiration and the
awesome. Yeah.
photos. And it's so rewarding to know, like, the beach that I go to is a preservation, and all of the entire staff is volunteer, 100%. The only people they pay is the lifeguards, and they only pay the lifeguards $7 an hour, which is crazy to me because you're running into an ocean.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Like $7 an hour is not a lot, especially in Florida by beaches and stuff. But I think that it's just really cool because any donations that they get helps them keep the trash and people patrol. They have trucks and SUVs. They have wheelchairs for people that are not able to go out on, like, they can't walk. So it's beach and water safe wheelchairs. So I could, like, my dad is handicapped. He's not wheelchair bound, but there's no way he could walk on the ocean. It's not
Right.
straight. So, like, they have wheelchairs at different entrances that you can rent out so that people can go. And if people don't donate, you can't have those things.
Can't have those. Yeah.
And so I think it's just really cool. And they do like a pay to park or whatever, but it's predominantly by donation. So it was really important to me when I started selling my sand dollar art that I gave back, because that is a need. And I think, like, yours, with your saying with your organizations, like you said, those kids are playing football because of you. And that is something that they're going to carry with them. And who's to say that they're not going to go on and start some college football scholarship later that can
Right.
help
Right.
people because somebody took the time to help them. And now they're going to want to do that. So, like you said, it's a pebble that you throw out there that is helping people. And you really don't know the ripple that it's going to affect for years, that can do so many good things for that.
I mean, oh, absolutely. And that's why I keep going back to our lives are changed by the lives of those around us. We all hear the same thing. People come and go in your life for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always know what that reason is at that time, but eventually we figure out what that reason is. And every person has left their thumbprint on your life, whether they're still in your life or not. And doing one small thing for somebody else actually does kind of change your life.
Yeah.
It's just like, walking into Kroger, and you see somebody and you just say, that top looks really nice on you. Not only did you actually make her feel good, you actually walked away with, oh, that was nice. Just that. And again, it's changing what you're doing outside. It actually does kind of change your life.
Well, and then even further on that person that you thanked them for the shirt, put them in a good mood. So now they're going to be nice to the cash register lady. And then she's going to be better because she knew that people were nice to her today. And a couple weeks ago, I was a sponsor and photographed suicide prevention walk in Delaware. And one of the girls that did a walk, like, I photographed it, but I still walked the event. And she was in the military, and 22 soldiers a day end up ending their life. So she was there, and she and I went to breakfast afterwards. And we didn't really get anything extraordinary. Like it was just waffles. Like it wasn't, and I think we got like sausage or something, you know. And it was probably 1 o'clock maybe. So after the Saturday morning rush and everything, and I thought they were closing. One of the servers walked by. I was like, "Are you guys closed?" And she's like, "No, we close at 3." She's like, "Everybody just cleared out." So our server popped back up after we had already tipped her and paid her. I was like, "Can we stay and talk?" And she goes, "Yeah, like you guys are fine." So she came back probably a half an hour after she had cashed us out and cleared the table. And it looked like she had been crying. And she was like, "I just want to take a moment and say thank you so much for your tip today." She goes, "You were my only table that was nice to me, but you were also my only table that tipped us or tipped
Oh my
me."
gosh.
It was only like a $10 tip because I
Yeah.
over tip anyway. I used to be a manager at a restaurant and a server, but we just had waffle. Like, I mean, it was such a small bill, but I even over tipped her. And I was like, man, that was only $10. Like, this girl has been working since 6 this morning and nobody tipped her. And I just hope that that kindness went with her the rest of the day. And I couldn't, like, the whole day was kind of a crazy event anyway, but another woman had a seizure and I had helped her, and it was an eventful day. So I was already like high on emotions, but it's crazy to think that if I hadn't come in, if I had not had that meal at that location, she wouldn't have made any money. She would have been upset and thought nobody cared, or that she sucked at her job, or whatever fear were filling up in her head. And I was her last table. They ended up cutting her section so she was able to go home. But it's just the simple little things that I don't think people take in consideration on a day-to-day basis, that we are impacting each other's lives. And I wrote a poem years ago. I doubt my family listens, but I'm going to talk shit about them here for a second. If they are, they deserve it. No, I'm kidding. I love my family, but they were really cruel to me for a while about some things. And I had wrote a poem right when Facebook started. I have severe dyslexia, and I wrote a whole poem about red lights. And I ended up deleting it because they were being mean about my spelling on there at the time. And this was before you could edit Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
And I hate that I don't have it and that they made me feel that way. Like, growth has happened since then. But this poem essentially was talking about how every red light can impact how your day goes, whether you stop at a red light and somebody ahead of you was in an accident and it stopped you from getting into an accident
Yeah.
because you got in that red light. I think there's a country song now even about red lights, but essentially, like, I know that there's been times when, like the other night, I went somewhere and I went to leave and we started talking about something random. And I stood there for like another 5 to 10 minutes telling the story and then left. And then when I came back, there had been an accident. And if I had left when I was supposed to, I would have been in that accident. And I think that's the same concept you're doing with this, with your business, is that this money isn't the typical way that money comes in, but it's still money coming into somewhere that's in need, that you get to give something to somebody that is impactful to them. And it's not a candy bar or popcorn that they ate. It's something that they can hold. Like, who's to say that they're not having, I know that you showed me a charcuterie board. Like, who's to say they're not having a Thanksgiving meal and like that's what they're using and that's their last Thanksgiving meal with a family member, and so they cherish it a little bit more. Like, it's an ongoing thing it's so awesome. And even with weddings, like having that every year for their anniversary, it's awesome that it's something that you can give back and it's something tangible that they can hold. And what all are all of the things that you offer in your business?
So I call them my hot items. My biggest items are my hand cut serving trays, my hand cut charcuterie boards, and my hand cut door hangers. Those are like I love making them. I say that sawdust is my glitter, because one thing that I love is I don't outsource any of my products. Well, let me back up. I should say, like, my apparel items, obviously I don't sew the t-shirts together.
Right.
So I do buy those from a wholesaler, but my wood items, I don't. I literally buy wood, cut it, sand it, stain it, create the design, and finish it. I do all of that by hand, and I don't outsource anything. So those three are wooden items. And then again, I do all the apparel. Like I'll do spirit wear for the different schools. I actually was just a part of a memorial poker run that I did t-shirts for. 98% of my business is fundraisers, and 98% of the items I sell are tied to a fundraiser. It is very rare that I sell an item just to sell an item. I do occasionally, well, actually, like this morning, a construction company reached out to me to do some of their uniform shirts. So that's not tied to a fundraiser, but I'm not seeking out those type of sales. So I don't just list something on my website, just, hey, I'm going to sell this. Everything that literally is on my website is tied to a fundraiser.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when somebody does something that's not, do you do some type of charity with it? Like, do you feel compelled to do some type of, like, just because I feel like that's
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes, or other times, I mean, I think because I don't have any debt, so to speak of. I mean, I'm using that rolling capital. Like I'll sell a serving tray for $40 and then I'll take that $40 and I'll turn it into more wood or what have you to kind of keep going. Um, so I mean, sometimes when I get an order like that, I'm always thinking like, okay, well, I need to upgrade my printer. So I'm going to take that profit and upgrade the printer instead of donating it.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Nice little buffer. So how does that work around Christmas? Like, do people ever, like, do you get inundated with Christmas and you're like, oh, we have to do a fundraiser. I'm doing fundraisers. I feel like I would want to like do the work, but also not turn away the work.
I'm stuck in the middle on that. Yeah. Like I have one of my biggest items is actually a stovetop cover or what they call a noodle board.
Yeah,
So it
those are
literally,
really popular. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but those are also my most time consuming, but they're also my most profitable item. So I get stuck with, do I want to launch these because I know it's profitable? It's also an item that is very hard to put in that realm of fundraising because it is a higher dollar item. All of my other items I like to keep very, very affordable. So I kind of get stuck with that. But I do put it out there and then I kind of limit myself. Like I'm only going to make 20 of those or, a certain number. But this year compared to the past 2 years, I actually have people emailing me to do holiday fundraisers, Christmas fundraisers. So right now I have six different organizations who are doing holiday fundraisers.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, and that's with Christmas. And then I'm not going to do all six at the same time. I limit myself to two different ones. And typically how I do a fundraiser is I set a sale for like 3 weeks. And the biggest reason for that is some people get paid weekly, some people get paid bi-weekly. So at the beginning of a sale, if someone sees it and says, oh gosh, I got to wait till payday, which is, in 2 weeks, the sale is still running at that time frame. So you've got your weekly pay and then you got your bi-weekly. And then I usually set like a pickup date. For example, I'm running a fundraiser right now for Dempsey Middle School, and their pickup date is going to be at a home football game. So I'll set that about a week or so after the sale ends. And then I go to this pickup location and disperse all the orders, or I give them to an organizer. So let's say you're running a fundraiser, I would deliver everything to you and then you would disperse.
That's awesome.
So by running it like that at 3-week intervals, I can kind of overlap myself a little bit date wise to where I'm not sitting here like, oh my gosh, this order goes with this person and this one goes with this one, and I get them all mixed up. I definitely don't want to do that.
I feel like that's a really good way to do your business anyway, because then you're not like, you have deadlines for things. It's not like, well, on Tuesday I have to have that done, on Wednesday I have to have that one done, and shipping dates and labels and all of that stuff that way.
You should see the wall. That's above my computer. I have sticky notes of yeah,
Yeah.
to kind of keep myself organized.
I used to do more t-shirt orders and stuff prior to 2020. When I got my studio, I started making my own products for my studio gift shop and everything like that. And I still sell some things on Etsy and my online store, whatever. And during the holidays, the shipping is just crazy. You have to
It
like
is.
ship by certain dates, and then you have people that are wanting them by certain dates because they're going to go be out of town and they have to have it for Christmas. So
Yeah.
I really like that you do that because it's probably less stressful for you. And like, okay, well, I have to have them all done by Friday.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it is. Speaking of that, like last year, this is just a super funny story. Was doing another fundraiser for Delaware Cheer, and they were picking up on Saturday, December 18th during a basketball game. It was the last basketball game before Christmas, and I'm like, this is perfect. I had a lady email me and she says, will these be ready before Christmas? It's like, yes, ma'am. You can pick these up on the 18th. And she says, I understand that, but will they be ready before Christmas? And I'm like, yes, ma'am, you can pick these up on the 18th. And she came back like in all capital letters. Will this be ready for before Christmas? I didn't even respond at that point. I was just like, I'm gifting you a calendar because Christmas is one of those days of the year that never changes. And while I'm on that story, that is my biggest pet peeve in the business that I am doing. People don't read.
They don't. They don't.
Oh my
They
gosh,
don't.
they don't read. I had a gal who I listed the serving trays in a Facebook group, and it says in the post, these are 15 inches. And her comment, and it's not, and it was right there. It wasn't, you know how when you're on Facebook and you have to click the see more?
More. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was right there. So it wasn't one of those situations where you actually had to click to actually see the whole post. It was right there. And she wrote, what size are these? I can't tell if it's the size of a coaster or a large pizza. Right, right, right there, 15 inches. And then I had another one that I literally said, pickup will be at this location. This lady comes and says, where is pickup? I just want to like reach my biggest pet peeve. Nobody reads. They just read what they want to read. And then even on my website in the item description, it gives you all of the information that I could possibly think you would need to know. And I just get the silliest, the dumbest. I can't even, those questions are just, that boggles me.
It's a huge problem in the Etsy community. I feel like all of the Etsy support groups that I'm in on Facebook, that's probably the number one complaint. People just don't read. They don't read the dimensions. And if you don't have a good photo, Etsy even has it laid out now of like, don't include things. If you have a lipstick that you're selling, don't put a mint leaf in there because they're going to expect that mint leaf with the lipstick.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is a software that like you can use to help with your Etsy listings. And unfortunately, now they tell you to write things at a fourth grade reading level because people
Yeah.
aren't reading. I kept like they score them, and I had one that kept failing, and I was like, why is this failing? Like the program, not Etsy, but I was trying to improve my listing. And it said I had too much text. And I'm like, well, this is the description of this item. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to dumb this down. And so I've had to go through and update some things because people don't read. And even if you say contact me for details via email or via website,
Yeah.
they'll still send you Facebook message. And then like 6 hours later, they're like, I haven't heard from you. I'm like, well, that's because Facebook is not the way I do my business. Like,
Right.
it is a
Right.
social media app. Contact me on my business platform. But Facebook is definitely getting better with some of that. But I was losing my messages because not only do I get business messages, but I was getting messages that were like, that's a great photo of you, or I hope you're
Yeah.
having a good day, or responding to the stories I was posting. And I'm like inundated with messages, and I was losing information, and it was simple questions of what size is that? What color is that? How many is that? Especially in 2020, I felt like I noticed a huge difference on that. And I think it was because everybody was on social media more. But I ran I forget what I was selling at the time, but like I have a gift shop in my studio, so I was selling things then, but I specifically said I'm shipping these items because I didn't want to meet a bunch of people and I didn't want them in my studio because I wasn't allowed to legally be open. So I
Right.
didn't want people in here and I didn't want people knowing where I lived to leave them on my porch and all of that stuff. And I would say, this is a special, but it's like a flat rate $5 shipping. So I was eating the cost on the shipping, but not making it high for them. And people would literally be like, I would love to save my $5. Can I just pick it up from you? And I'm like, no, you can't.
I'm
Like it
only
says
offering shipping.
that I'm
Yeah.
only offering. So yeah, I think that that is a huge thing that I see in a lot of businesses. And I really don't know any work around that because I feel like people just get busy and they are multitasking when they're on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see why that's super annoying, especially for something that you have set quantities for. Like you only have so many. It's not like they're going into Macy's or some
Right.
department
Yeah.
store where they can, buy multiple quantities of something and then go back whenever they want and repurchase it. But I think what you do is really unique. I know that there are people that are listening to this and not getting to see this, but for the people on YouTube, if you want to show them the
Yeah, I can try. Yeah. So Jocelyn, I made you one of my signature items here, which is
it's
my
so cool.
15-inch hand cut wooden serving tray. And it does, I don't want to say it's your logo, but I do have your business name on here. And then I kind of put a little camera with some flowers there for you.
I love it.
And I love these. And the cool thing too is I use a special wood heat vinyl. And then I use a water-based sealant. So they're food safe. Um, you can't set anything hot. Like you can't take a pan from the stove and set it down. You just wipe it clean with a damp cloth. It's very versatile. You can display it, you can use it. I mean, it's one of my favorite items there.
That's awesome. And that is how many inches? No, I'm kidding. I had to make a
Yeah,
joke.
15 inches. But you had said that you tend not to use Facebook for your business as a main platform. 99% of my business comes from Facebook. And I think that's because I'm a little scared to reach out to other social media platforms. Like, don't ask me to do a TikTok because I can't do it. Um, and I think a lot of it is because on Facebook, yeah, you've got your little profile picture there, but you're kind of hidden in a way. And I'm kind of that person who, like, being on this video with you is really out of my comfort zone, but I'm doing it. Um, on Facebook, you are kind of behind the scenes a little bit. I don't like to be out there, but on the flip side, I go do vendor events. So it's really, it's difficult for
Yeah.
me, but I, yeah, almost 99% of my business is from Facebook. And to hear the power of Facebook, back in at the end of August, I had a lady email me who is in South Carolina, and she wanted to do a fundraiser for her high school marching band. And I'm like, how in the world did you find me? You're in South Carolina, I'm in Ohio. Her husband's cousin lives in Delaware and had one of my flags posted. So I'm like, that's the power of Facebook.
Yeah. That's how so I do business on Facebook. I have a huge Facebook page and I have groups and stuff like that. But I got flagged for photos in 2020, I think it was, and I was in Facebook jail for a year. Couldn't run ads.
Oh, wow.
So I do business on there. I'm very selective with it, but I'm a creator on the business side of Facebook too. So like I'm in their paid features for that too. I don't like getting personal messages on my Facebook. I'm getting over that because they started a new feature with you can archive a message when it's done.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that feature until recently. So I was losing messages because I had so many conversations that were done and I couldn't keep track of them. So I
Right.
spent like 4 hours one night and
Just
archived,
to, you know,
it's like
I did the
2,000
same thing.
messages. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm getting easier at it and I'm doing better with that. And it's not as stressful, but I think with t-shirts and stuff when I was selling them, it was colors and sizes and designs, and that was just very overwhelming for me. But for my full-time business, I actually just mentored somebody that came in from North Carolina and was a photographer, and she found me from Facebook. And that's what it is. Like you can reach I mean, TikTok's the
Yeah.
same way. I've had clients from there too, but it's so great that we have these resources because when I first started photography, it was film. Like
Yeah.
it was a whole different world. We didn't have social media. We didn't have like I ran ads in a newspaper. I know that makes me sound so incredibly old. I've always
No, but that's it. But you're right.
yeah.
15 years ago, we didn't have all these social medias.
Yeah. And I think Facebook was one of their original, I mean, MySpace, I feel like is the
The
original.
original Facebook. Yeah.
And I miss MySpace. I always wonder where Tom's up to, but the Facebook, I feel like, is the first big, huge social media platform. And I think people get loyal to it. So I do think it's important to have it. One of the girls, she was supposed to be on a podcast with me today, and she ended up going to help with the Fort Myers hurricane relief. But she is going to be on a podcast in the future about how she only markets her business on Instagram
Really? Oh, I'm
because
definitely going to listen to that.
she is so adamant about how Facebook was just not the place for her. And she didn't like how it was just too much. And so she has built her business on Instagram, and she wants to reiterate to people like find the platform that works for you, that you feel comfortable with, that you have a voice on, that you can reach people. So it'll be a fun topic to talk about. I'm on every platform. It's a lot of work. I just rejoined LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter. I got rid of my Twitter account years ago, but Facebook was my only source of income or like bringing in income before I went full time with my business. So it's a very powerful platform for sure. I just
It is.
get overwhelmed with all the messages from every.
Yeah, I did that on our drive to vacation. I literally that sat there and just archived all of these. But I have my personal Facebook and then I have the business Facebook. I do have a business Instagram account, but I think there's so many learning curves with all of the different social media platforms. And your friend is right. Find that one that is definitely working for you and then just go with that. But I also feel it's getting out of your comfort zone. Like my daughter tells me all the time, I should do a start to finish TikTok on some of my products. And she's like, you would go viral. And I'm like, I don't want to
She's
go viral, but
right.
again, that is getting out of my comfort zone because
Yeah.
as a business owner, we have those what ifs. What if somebody doesn't like my product? What if somebody doesn't like the way I look? What if somebody doesn't like the way I sound? What if you have all of these what ifs, and we're constantly questioning ourselves. And it is extremely hard to just take that chance because then you have what if you do go viral?
Mm-hmm.
What if you sell 1,000 in a day? What if everybody loves you? But we are so honed into staying with what is comfortable.
I can understand that. I have a fairly large following on my TikTok, and I mean that was the goal. When I have 5 TikTok accounts, TikTok's my favorite.
Oh my gosh, I'm on TikTok. I scroll and look at what everybody else in the world's doing. I can't do it.
I feel like I got on in 2019 before the COVID jump when everybody was getting on TikTok because they had nothing else to do. But the whole goal was I wanted to go viral in my business. And I did. I had a video that went viral. And I went into like a state, and I have a podcast on here about fear. So it's funny that I talk about it. And it was kind of like a fear, but it wasn't the same type of fear that I had been experiencing. But people were commenting. I was talking about how the things that I overcome and had went through, and then I was writing a book about it. Well, everybody was like, I want your book. Where do I buy your book? And I was like, oh my God, this means I actually have to finish writing it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I didn't have it done. And then I felt like I was letting down people. And then I felt like I was missing out on sales because I had a video go viral for a book I was promoting, and the book wasn't done. And the book is now done. And those people didn't buy it because they didn't know that it was done. So it's kind of funny because, like you said, people might not like you, or people might, whatever. And I have learned, like, when I post a photo, like, I was bullied tremendously growing up. I've had a facial reconstructive surgery. I was in an accident. And it's crazy to know, like, yep, somebody could make fun of me for this or that, or my outfits, or like I wear t-shirts a lot because, like, I'm a photographer. So sometimes I'm laying on the ground taking a photo. I'm up and down on ladders. I'm sweating, all the things. So it's funny. And I've talked about this in other podcasts too, is like people judge you for that. It's like, oh, you don't wear t-shirts. And so I just try to always assume that somebody's going to make fun of me about something, or they're not going to like something, because we can't please everybody. And with TikTok, I feel like it's the safest way, because in that community, they will have, like, it's a mob mentality, and luckily most of the time they're more supportive than they're not. But if you have somebody that is making fun of you on that platform, there's going to be people that are going to be jumping down that person's throat. Like, who are you going to make fun of?
Yeah, I've seen that.
I think that that's what's great. And it happens on every platform. It's crazy because bullying is a whole other topic. And I would love to make it a podcast if there's somebody out there that would love to be talking about bullying and anti-bullying. But there's so many times that people don't go after things that they want because of that. And if I would have done that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in my studio. I wouldn't have a podcast. I wouldn't have wrote my book. And honestly, if I had had social media when I was in school, I probably wouldn't even be alive anymore, because it was just so bad. And I know that bullying on social media is even worse. But I think all the times that the people that were cruel to me, I just kind of let it be the fuel now, where I'm like, oh, you think I can't do it? Watch me. And
I'm kind of starting to get that same mentality. I have a sign here in the shop that there's some strong language on it, but it's like, I am proving you wrong.
Yeah. And I think that that's why, like, I try to encourage people. I know that everybody has different opinions about different platforms, but I think the genuine overall vibe that I've experienced on TikTok, you can reach so many different people, and it is I wouldn't say a kinder community, but I feel like they're just more forgiving. Like, I can go on TikTok without makeup on. There's definitely TikToks I've done laying in bed right when I woke up and, like, rubbing my eyes. And I've done just the most random things. And just until recently, I started sharing those videos on Facebook, and now I'm in the creator fund for Facebook. So I'm making money off of them that way too. But it's just funny because in 2019, you would have never caught me doing that video on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm slowly coming out of that zone, but I actually listened to your podcast on being grateful on our way down to vacation, and those little slips of paper in a glass jar. And every store that I went into down there, I was looking for the perfect glass jar. And then I thought, I'm just going to get a plain old notebook and just write them down. But it's funny because everybody says when you start taking the time and putting out what you're grateful for, you will find that shift. You will find it coming back. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like, how is that even possible? Oh my gosh, is it possible? Mm-hmm. Because at one, I do it in the morning, and it just changes the whole entire day.
Well, I do sell gratitude journals that I published. I have 10 of them now. There's 5 lines for 365 days, and then there's one for leap year. But for anybody that's not listening, or that hasn't listened to that episode, because another, I guess people just need to go to YouTube and watch us on YouTube. But I actually, that popped up. I have a photo of the jar that it's funny. I literally just saw this photo 2 nights ago that you're bringing up from that. And for anybody that can see, like that was the jar.
Oh my gosh, Good Life. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the lyrics to the One Republic song, Good Life. And that was the jar I started with my gratitude. And I read them on the last day of the year. But I did that jar, and then I did a book, and I put the book in or I did pieces of paper, and then I just stacked them together. And then the third year I did a book, and then the second year that I did the book was when I was like, I need to make my own journal. And that's when I
Yeah.
started publishing them. But jars are great too. I have a friend that does a happy box. If anybody's listened to the podcast episode with Christine, Finding the Silver Lining, she talks about her happy box, and she does a happy box, and now her daughter does a happy box. And so I think it's just stopping and like focusing on the things that we're grateful for. And
Yeah.
I'm sure with your work and how many people you've helped, like you can fill up a jar pretty quickly.
You know, there's also a downside to what I do. There are a couple of organizations that I will never work with again. There's a particular school district that I will never work with again. Um, it was just an awful experience, but it also prompted me to change how I conduct my fundraisers. Like now I have a contract as to before I didn't. There are quite a few times I don't even get a simple thank you.
Yeah.
Like I don't even get a thank you. And it was funny that just this past Friday, I delivered a big set of orders and a check for $425 to an organization. And she's standing in front of me and she gave me a hug and she just went, thank you. And a couple days later, I sent her a text and I'm like, I want to thank you for thanking me because I don't hear it. I honestly really don't expect it anymore. But to actually genuinely see that someone is thankful for my efforts and given that back to me, it just reiterates why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it goes back to actually that money that I donated to that school is going right back to the students. So I know again my money, where that money is going towards. And it just goes back to our lives are changed by the lives of those around us. You know, before I started following you, I had heard about gratitude before, but it honestly, it really wasn't until I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to listen to our podcast. And it hit me. And I have been doing that. So, you know, what you did has affected my life. And we just never really focus on how that even happens in life.
That's incredible. I think too, like my gratitude episode is my most listened to episode. And I had somebody tell me that they listened to it numerous times because it's just like it keeps reminding them of the things like they want to absorb it. And I think it's definitely something that I know that it's it's kind of like eating and drinking. Like some days I don't always eat 3 meals a day or drink all the
Yeah.
water. And I think a lot of times people start practicing gratitude, or they do a gratitude journal, or they do a jar, a good life, like all of the things, or a happy box. Even if it's a notes app, I've said like pull up your phone and just type in the notes of things you're grateful for. But so many times I've heard people go, oh, I did it for a few days and then I forgot. And I'm like, oh, so you just stopped eating because you didn't have dinner once? Like
Yeah.
you can reset, like you can go back
Yeah.
and do it. And I know earlier, this year with my vertigo, it was really hard having screen time and then trying to write and everything. And there was like a week that I didn't write in my gratitude journal, and I could tell my life, I felt I was just frustrated. It was like wasn't focusing on things. So I sat down and I started writing backwards and filling in all those days and going, okay, well, on this day, I saw this person and I was thankful for them. And then I felt so much better the rest of the day. So I think people, I mean, it's a habit. I feel like the first 21 days, and I don't know if I talk about it on that podcast, but I've done it for, I've spoke with corporations before and done speaking engagements talking about gratitude. And the first time that I started actually doing the journal part of it, it felt like such a task, because when I did the jar, it was just when something good happened throughout the month. It wasn't an
Yeah.
everyday thing. And when I started doing the journal, I was so confused, because I'm like, I have to be thankful for something today. And I realized I had to literally find things as I went on.
Yeah.
Like, I went to bed at night, I did the journal, and I struggled to figure out what I was thankful for. So then the next morning, I'm like, I have to look for things that I'm thankful for. And I realized it was like programming my mind, because I was literally going places to look for something to be thankful for, so that it wasn't a struggle when I wrote it in my journal. And then I realized, like, a week after doing that, like every day, I'm like, oh, I just rewired my brain to look for things that I was thankful for in
Yeah.
life.
And that's exactly like where I am. I've only been doing this for about a week or so now. But it's funny, I like to do it first thing in the morning. And I was sitting out on my patio and I said, you know what? Today I am really thankful and grateful for my backyard. I
Yeah.
have this beautiful fenced in backyard where I can let Harley out and she can just run and she's protected. And then I'm sitting there and maybe one day when I have my grandbabies, I can just let them out and they can play. And we have this big, beautiful, peaceful backyard. And I was just sitting there, something simple as a backyard.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. You go through and you're finding things like my first couple days. Oh, family, my daughter,
Mm-hmm. Everybody does that.
the house and this. And then I'm like, and then one day it was, I'm very grateful for Harley. And then the next day I'm like, okay, what, you look around, I am thankful for that clock or something silly, but it does rewire you to really look and see what you are thankful for and grateful for. And it's that shift is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And you don't see that and you don't believe that's going to happen until you start this process.
Yeah. I think too, years ago, I was probably practicing gratitude before I even realized I was doing it. But I had went to some Al-Anon meetings for one of my friends that was struggling with alcoholism. And I got like the Courage to Change book. And I was just trying to understand them. And in it, they talk about trying to find something to be grateful for with each letter in the alphabet. And
Wow, that would be a challenge.
it is incredible, because I realize like it's really great for like when you're feeling anxious or anxiety or trouble sleeping or just trying to kill time, because it just redirects your brain. Because I tried to do it where it's like, I'm thankful for a refrigerator, I'm thankful for ink pens. Like, I find like literally little things, but I try to do something different than the day before. So I
Yeah.
started doing it before I fell asleep at night, because you're not writing it down, but it was still an exercise, especially if people have trouble sleeping. Like, I cannot get to sleep at night. It's always been a problem. And at this particular point in my life, I was really worried about my friend too. And unfortunately, one of my friends did pass away from alcoholism. So there was a lot of uncertainty at that time, and it was nice. Like, I wasn't even in it for me, it was just me helping, like trying to understand my friend, and it still benefited me, it still helped me. But I would do it if I knew I fell asleep at H, then the next day I would start at H again and start the whole
Start
alphabet.
giving back. Yeah.
And it's incredible too, because we don't realize that these things that we have around us, not everybody has.
Yeah.
Especially as business owners, there are people that would love to be a business, but they can't figure out how to get to point B to start a business, or they don't feel like they're good enough. They don't feel like they're educated enough. They don't feel like they have enough income to do it. All these different things. And so I feel like one of my favorite movies is Joy, and I forget who's in it, but it came out around Christmas several years ago. And one of the quotes she says in it is sometimes when people get money, they forget these things, and she always wanted to be humble and everything. So focusing on gratitude, I think, is incredible, because like when people come into my studio, they're like, wow, this is beautiful. And like, I can look and know what the hard work I did, but I also want to be thankful that I was able to put this in my studio, like my microphone. I'm so thankful that I have my microphone for my
Right.
podcast, or I'm thankful for my fingers. Like I burnt my hand a couple weeks ago and I was thankful that it didn't hurt my face. Like that was the first thing
Yeah.
I said. And I'm thankful that I can still type. And there's just so many different things that people can be thankful for. And like you said, not everybody's going to be grateful for the things that you do. And that is a hard thing to deal with as a business owner, because especially as a service-based business where we're creating something with our time and our talents, and we get excited about it because we know the love that we put into each item. And I don't know any business owner that creates things with their hands that aren't passionate about it, or they wouldn't be
Right.
doing it,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
especially if you're doing designs on something. Like you get excited about those things. And it's funny because we can create a piece of work and we're like, oh my God, this is beautiful, I love it. And we give it to somebody, they're like, that's great, thanks. And you're like, why are
You're
you
like,
not as
what?
excited as I
Yeah. Like,
am?
can you at least jump up and down and pretend to love it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But those are the same people too that you'll receive like some great heartfelt thank you card in the mail, and they'll refer their friends and you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think that it's definitely the people that don't seem grateful make it harder, but there's so many other people that do, that are appreciative of the things that make it worthwhile to keep doing it. Because I'm sure if those were the bad things that you started with, you probably would have been like, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. But then you know that you helped kids go to football and you help
Yeah.
kids go to like the fundraisers, are such a rewarding thing that that's what keeps it going. I think too, like you've made an excellent point that not everything in business is so bubbly and rainbows and butterflies. And
Yeah, it's not. And it does get discouraging, especially when you're like, seriously, I just had to deal with this horrible, horrible organizer. And she didn't even say thank you. And she sends me the nastiest, Facebook message. And, I could have snapped back because I am very, very quick tempered. I am really quick tempered. And I could have snapped back and it was pretty nasty. And I replied with, "You're welcome." And that was it. I'm like, "You're welcome." And I actually kind of felt good about that because instead of, going down to her level with some nastiness, just saying you're welcome. I mean, I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that shut her up really quick. She just had to take a step back, like, okay. I'm like, I literally gave you $800 and you didn't even say it. You can't even say thank you. But my response was you're welcome. And it is very, very hard.
yeah.
Um,
That is, I think, one of the biggest challenges of being a business owner, that we can't say what we really want to
I
people that
know.
hurt us,
Yeah.
because it's just not worth it. And there's far and few between that I've had to deal with, but they were so big that I will never forget them. And it is frustrating because
Yeah.
you want to say something. And I think too, people don't realize that we're human. Like on the
Oh,
other
yeah.
side of the screen, on the other side of the business, we're human. I had a lady that was trying to reschedule her shoot. She had something awful happen, and like it wasn't like, for her it was awful. Let's rephrase that. She had a house that she wanted, and the house fell through. She didn't get it, and she was like, "It's so awful that this happened to me. I wanted that house so bad." And so she was really distraught. So she rescheduled her shoot. So at the same time, my dog was not doing well, and I was at the vet talking about putting her down. Like I was literally signing the paperwork to put her
Oh,
down. And thankfully, we didn't end up having to put her down. Like she showed massive improvements. And that was, I think she lived like 9 months longer. But this lady was blowing up my phone about how she's like, I need to know, I have to schedule work and I have to get in there. And I'm like, I'm literally waiting on information from somebody else in order to do the shoot, because I have other people that are involved in
yeah.
my photo shoots. And I was just like, ma'am, I'm going to have to talk to you in a little bit. And she just kept blowing up my phone, and I'm literally bawling. Like I had my dog for almost 17 years, and I just wanted to scream at her and like say, I'm in a vet's
Yeah.
office and you can't, because like this lady's clearly upset, it's about her. It's not about me. It's not about my dog. It's about her and her experience and what she needed the photos for. But I'll never forget her because of that. And like I ended up photographing her and she never knew. And I would never particularly want her to know because I feel like she would feel bad about it. But the first cancellation had nothing to do with me. I didn't even charge her
Yeah.
the fee. Like I was just like, today's not going to be a good day for you if you want to reschedule, because she was upset and crying. Like you can't take photos like that. So it's just hard sometimes to be a business owner because you got kids screaming, you got pets that are sick, you have pandemics. There were days when people were like, I just don't understand why you can't get me in its photos. I'm like, the governor has shut down my business.
Yeah.
Literally on Google. Google went through and temporarily
Yeah.
closed my business. There's nothing I can do about this.
It's like right now it is against the law for me to do
Right.
this.
But like you had to be politically correct, I guess, for a lack of
Yeah.
better terms, because it's your livelihood, it's your business, and you want to make people happy. But I think people do forget that we're humans and we want to do good things, especially with you doing like essentially charity or donations with your business. You don't have to do that. Like that's something
Right.
you
Right.
choose to do. And you can easily say, I'm not doing this anymore and make it about a business. So, or say, I don't want to donate to those charities or whatever, you know?
There have been a few a couple of charities and their organizations that don't align with my personal beliefs and, what or who I am as a person that I have declined. And I actually had someone tell me, well, you can't do that. Business is business and personal is personal. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I want my name
Yeah,
attached to what they are about. And you do have to make those choices. Or, after this horrible experience with this organizer with this one particular school district, 6 months later, I had someone from that same school district reach out, completely different group. And I just politely said, at this time, I'm not going to be working with anybody from, XYZ. And that was it. I do have that power to choose.
mm-hmm.
But again, I do feel like this is what I was made to do. And just 2 months ago, I was able to resign from my real big girl part-time job to do this full time. And I don't
That's
have any regrets.
awesome.
And I love this. And those first 2 weeks after that, I crying like, oh my gosh, this was a big mistake. I lost that set amount of money. What am I going to do? And then, of course, something fell in my lap and completely changed everything, all my negative thoughts around.
And I have to reiterate to you on this too, that that may still pop into your head in a year or four
Yeah.
years or 5 years, and you're
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? But doubt creeps in sometimes for sure. But I
Yeah.
think the reward is so much better, and that's awesome. I'm really proud of you. That is a big leap to do something full time and to burn those ships and go out and sail the ocean with your new dream and purpose.
Yeah.
Now that you know your purpose.
Yeah, that was my lightning bolt. And I guess I'm very blessed that I have converted my entire basement into my shop. So I can literally crawl out of bed and come down here and do what I love to do. And, I can sit behind the keyboard and market myself and, chat with different organizations about what they're needing. And I mean, I still reach out to organizations, but this holiday season is actually the first one where I have had people ask me. And that feels really
That's
good. That makes,
incredible. Yeah.
you know, when you have moments like that, you're like, yes, so this is what I'm supposed to do. People are starting to recognize my work and they are asking me to help them. But they don't realize in turn they're helping me. I suffer from a couple different mental health diagnoses, and this is this is my therapy. I mean it truly is, especially when I'm out sanding wood. I pop my headphones on, I'll listen to something inspirational, and I just go to work. And doing this has really, really helped my mental health status tremendously.
That's awesome. I think too that like having a purpose is not just the bigger picture of like you're helping other people. People are helping you in the process
Yeah,
too. Like it's
absolutely.
giving
Yeah.
you a reason to get up and go and do things. And one of my friends just went through a child loss. She lost her 13-day-old baby, and then she lost her dog. Like there was a bunch of stuff that was going on. And somebody asked me that was checking in on her, they're like, does she have a purpose? And I said, she has 2 kids. And they're like, okay, good. Because people need a purpose to get up out of bed. Like when the
Yeah.
world starts crumbling down, and especially too, like the world got real heavy in 2020. I mean, I think it was pretty heavy before. We just saw it more, and people are pivoting. Relationships change, personalities change, dynamics change. Um, Having a reason to be motivated has changed for a lot of people, and finding different incomes, people laid off and everything. And it's kind of interesting. The last couple of people I've had on podcast have talked about how they started their business in 2020. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there's so many people that lost businesses in 2020. I was so grateful that I held on to mine by the skin of my teeth. Like I lost all my entire life savings, and I still had to pay for everything, and I didn't have any income for about 6 months. I had a salon license, so we had to follow the board of cosmetology.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people had gained weight. They couldn't get their hair done. They couldn't get their nails done. They couldn't buy outfits. There were so many other things. They postponed weddings. Like there were so many other things that went into play that when I was open, they weren't running into my studio to have pictures taken because there was different things that had come into play. Like I had photographed a lot of nurses, and the nurses were traveling, and
Yeah.
teachers were exhausted from zooming for classes and or videos. And I remember coming in here one day into my studio, and 15 businesses had closed in my strip. And I just sat on the floor in silence, and I was so grateful that I had made it, and I was praying that my business would still make it. And it's incredible to know that like the people that I've had on my podcast, that they started businesses in that storm when people were losing it. And like I still think about all these people, and I'm like, I hope that they went off and had built different business ideas, or it worked for them. But everything just kind of shifted for people, and starting a business is not for the faint of heart by any means. There are a lot of things that go into play that are stressful, and especially if you have overhead or if you have like a brick or mortar. It's awesome that you get to do it out of your basement.
Yeah. I
um
mean, my dream is, within the next 5 years, I would like to have a standalone building to where I can, kind of shift away from being at home. And then that would give me the opportunity to expand. But for now, it's just completely perfect.
yeah, and who's to say something else won't come along on the way and be even bigger and make your business grow? And that's the beauty of it with businesses. You just meet somebody and something else happens or something else grows, and who's to say that you don't get some type of person that wants to buy bulk from you and does a huge
Right. Well, yeah.
charity or something. So
Absolutely. I mean, and that's my goal. I mean, I love my bulk orders. I've had quite a few of them, and that is definitely something I love to do. But and you're absolutely right. Who's to say what's going to happen this time next year? I mean,
yeah,
I thought I was busy last Christmas. I mean, it looks like I'm going to be even busier this Christmas. So it just kind of evolves. And as you get better and hone those skills, not just, my handcrafting skills, but, marketing and advertising and being personable, it is that ripple. It keeps going and going.
that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on our show today. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or did we cover all the bases?
Yeah, I think we got all the bases. So thank you so much for having me on. And I hope you love this in person
Yes,
as
I'm
much as
really
you see it.
excited.
So
I'm very thankful to have something else with my name on it, and especially my business too, because I don't really have a lot of things with it except for like my pins and t-shirts, like nothing that is like something I can use, you
yeah.
know.
Well,
So
the
that's
only
awesome.
the only time I can ever find anything with my name on it is this time of the year at Hobby
Yeah.
Lobby.
Yeah, I think it
So
was in my Facebook group. You said something about like it is my name. And I was like,
it
oh
is.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I said, they're using my name.
That's funny.
But
Well,
I love walking. I love walking into stores now where they have the Hello Autumn signs. I'm like, oh, thank you.
like that was such a friendly welcome. I appreciate you. Well, if somebody wants to follow you, where can they look you up at?
So I'm mainly on Facebook, and it's at Hat Creek Designs LD. And then the same on Instagram. And my website is hatcreekdesigns.net.
Awesome. And I'll also include that in the show notes so that people can just link to them. And I'm really excited for you. And I can't wait to have you back on the show to hear how your next adventure for this Christmas. I have a feeling you're going to just keep growing, and especially now that you get to do it full time and have it in your home and just easy access.
Yeah.
That the mental part of that will be great. So hopefully you'll be on our show again. And
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me on today.
well, that's all we have for today's podcast. We thank you so much for joining, and I hope that you have a fantastic day, and we will catch you next time with the Joss and Crowd podcast.